The person who keeps appearing in your mind is not there by accident. There is something genuine and meaningful keeping that connection alive within you, even if the situation between you feels unclear, complicated, or hard to make sense of right now. This is not happening because you are lonely, bored, or emotionally fragile. Something deeper is at work. This person surfaces in your thoughts during the quietest moments of your day, in those brief pauses between tasks, in the seconds just before sleep when your defenses come down, or suddenly in the middle of an ordinary afternoon when you are busy with work or laughing with someone else. Their face, their voice, or a specific memory attached to them rises inside you without any effort at all. It simply happens. You may have tried to stop it. You may have told yourself firmly that it is time to move on, that dwelling on this person no longer makes sense given the confusion or silence between you. You may have questioned whether what you are feeling is even real or whether you are holding on to something that no longer exists. Yet despite all of that mental effort, despite your moments of feeling strong and resolved, they keep returning. And this is not a sign of weakness. It is not evidence that something is broken in you. It is a signal that an emotional bond between you and this person remains open, unresolved, and still very much alive beneath the surface of your everyday life. Connections that run this deep are not built by logic, and they cannot be dismantled by willpower alone. They are formed at a level where emotion, memory, and personal meaning all come together at once. When someone continues to appear in your thoughts without you calling them there, it usually means that there is unfinished emotional energy between you. Something that was felt strongly but never fully expressed. Something that was shared but never clearly defined or given a name. It is entirely possible that this person thinks about you just as often, even if they never reach out or say anything openly. Feelings do not always travel through words. Emotions do not always make themselves visible through actions. Some people carry what they feel in silence, unsure of how to handle it or what to do with it. They may feel overwhelmed, afraid, or uncertain about what their emotions mean and where they lead. Just because they are quiet does not mean they feel nothing. You may already sense this in the way emotion washes over you unexpectedly, a wave of warmth, sadness, or longing that arrives without warning or explanation. That is not imagination at work. Strong emotional bonds operate beneath conscious awareness, quietly shaping thoughts and feelings in ways that resist simple explanation or easy understanding. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are simply human. Deep care does not vanish just because you decide it should, and the heart does not move on simply because the mind instructs it to. When something truly meaningful has touched you, it leaves an impression. And that impression remains until it has been fully understood, processed, or transformed into something new. None of this means you should put your own life on hold or spend your days waiting for something uncertain. It simply means that what you experienced was real. The bond mattered. Confusion does not erase love. Silence does not cancel emotion. Distance does not always signal the absence of feeling. Sometimes it signals the presence of fear, uncertainty, or an inner struggle happening on the other side that you cannot fully see. You may never receive clear answers from this person, or perhaps one day you will. Either way, your experience is completely valid. The thoughts you carry are not random, and the emotions you feel are not meaningless. They are part of a story that genuinely touched something in you. Things that matter take time to settle fully in the heart. So be gentle with yourself. Avoid judging your own thoughts, and resist the urge to rush your feelings toward a resolution that has not yet arrived naturally. When someone occupies your thoughts this deeply and consistently, your mind is not simply clinging to the past out of habit or weakness. Your heart is responding to something that never reached a clean or complete ending. Human beings are rarely disturbed by what is fully resolved. What keeps us unsettled is what remains open, emotionally unclear, or unfinished. You may notice that this person comes to mind precisely when something good happens, when you experience a small victory, witness something beautiful, or share a funny moment. They become the person you instinctively want to tell. You find yourself imagining sharing ordinary details of your day with them, small things that might seem insignificant on the surface but feel meaningful to you in ways that are difficult to explain. You wonder how they are feeling even when your own life is full and moving forward. Sometimes you feel a pull, not just toward their physical presence, but toward their energy and inner world, as though you are somehow tuned to the same emotional frequency even across distance and long stretches of silence. Most people do not realize that emotional bonds do not dissolve simply because communication has stopped. Silence does not erase connection. The unconscious mind does not operate on logic or timelines. It operates on meaning, emotion, and what remains unresolved between two people. Love that feels distant, confusing, or delayed often exists in the complicated space between fear and genuine desire. One or both people involved may be afraid of vulnerability, afraid of repeating old pain, afraid of wanting something that feels uncertain or just out of reach. Fear does not destroy love, it delays it. It hides it. It creates distance in the exact place where closeness is most desired but feels too risky to pursue. You may wonder why, if this person truly cares for you, they have not acted, why they have stayed quiet, why they have not reached out. The answer is that love does not always move in a straight line. Many people feel things very deeply but have no idea how to act on those feelings in a healthy or direct way. Some are emotionally guarded. Some carry old wounds from past relationships that never fully healed. Some are caught between competing responsibilities and what their heart actually wants. Some feel unworthy of the love they feel and believe they must fix something within themselves before they allow themselves to move closer. The mind returns repeatedly to what the heart has not resolved. This is why this person appears in your thoughts when you are calm, quiet, and emotionally open, because that is when the deeper layers of feeling have room to rise without interference from the noise of daily life. There is something else worth understanding beneath all of this. When you think of this person, you are not only thinking about who they are, you are also thinking about who you were when you were connected to them. Certain people awaken parts of us that remain dormant in almost every other relationship. They reflect something back to us that feels deeply familiar, significant, and alive in a way that is rare. Losing access to that reflection can feel like losing a part of yourself, which is why the longing often runs deeper than simple attraction or ordinary missing. The distance that exists between two people who genuinely care for each other is frequently not caused by a lack of love. It is caused by timing, fear, or unresolved inner conflict standing in the way. When emotions remain active without ever reaching resolution, the inner mind keeps the connection alive, waiting for understanding, healing, or closure to finally arrive. You may notice that your feelings fluctuate. One day you feel calm and detached. The next, a small and unexpected reminder brings everything flooding back. This is completely normal. It means your conscious mind is trying to protect you while your emotional mind remains attached. These two parts of you do not always agree, and forcing them into harmony before you are genuinely ready helps no one. The person who loves you deeply but maintains distance often lives in a quiet and ongoing internal conflict that rarely finds expression in the outer world. From the outside, they may appear composed, even detached at times, as if nothing particularly intense is happening within them. But beneath that surface, there is a continuous movement of thought and feeling that rarely settles into rest. Their mind does not experience your presence as something occasional. Instead, it integrates you into the rhythm of their daily awareness in a way that feels almost involuntary. When they wake up in the morning, there is often a brief, unstructured moment before logic and responsibility fully take over. In that space, thoughts of you can appear without invitation, not necessarily as dramatic emotion, but as quiet awareness, your face, your words, or the memory of a moment that carried meaning. It may be something as simple as a sentence you once said, or a look you gave without realizing its impact. These fragments return without warning, as if the mind keeps a private record that it reopens when defenses are low. As the day unfolds, they try to function normally. They engage with work, conversations, responsibilities, and distractions. On the surface, they appear present in their environment. Yet beneath that participation in daily life, there is often a parallel thread of thought that continues quietly in the background. You are not always at the center of their attention, but you are never fully removed from it either. Their mind circles back intermittently, not in a disruptive way every moment, but in recurring intervals that feel natural and unforced. What makes this experience particularly complex for them is that it is not purely emotional longing in the simplistic sense. It is layered with hesitation, self-questioning, and internal reasoning. They do not only think, "I miss this person," they also think, "Is this right? Am I capable of being present in the way this connection requires? Would I bring stability or uncertainty into their life if I stayed closer?" These questions do not always lead to answers. Instead, they often lead to restraint. There is a kind of inner negotiation that takes place repeatedly. One part of them moves toward emotional closeness, remembering warmth, connection, and ease. Another part immediately introduces caution, memory of past difficulties, personal limitations, or fear of emotional inadequacy. This creates a cycle that repeats itself in quieter forms throughout their days. They move forward internally, then step back, then reconsider, then step back again. This is why distance becomes their chosen behavior, even when it is emotionally uncomfortable. The distance is not always a lack of feeling. In many cases, it is an attempt to manage feeling. They may convince themselves that stepping away is an act of protection, not only for themselves, but also for you. In their perception, closeness without readiness could lead to imbalance, misunderstanding, or emotional harm. So they frame their withdrawal as responsibility rather than avoidance. Yet emotional experience does not simply dissolve through rational justification. Even when they step back physically or socially, their inner world does not fully comply. Memory does not respect distance. Feeling does not obey logic. So what remains is a quiet persistence of emotional presence that continues without outward expression. They may revisit conversations in their mind, not obsessively in a chaotic way, but reflectively. They replay what was said and what was left unsaid. They analyze tone, timing, pauses, and meanings that were not fully articulated in real time. Sometimes they imagine alternative versions of the same moment, what they wish they had said, what they should have said, or what might have changed the emotional outcome if expressed differently. Alongside this reflection is imagination, and imagination often becomes a space where reality and possibility overlap. They begin to construct scenarios that do not exist but feel emotionally coherent. In these imagined versions of life, circumstances are different, timing is better, emotional readiness is aligned, fear is reduced, and connection flows without interruption. These imagined possibilities are not always deliberate fantasies. Sometimes they appear passively, as if the mind is testing what safety would feel like if it existed between you. But imagination is often followed by withdrawal. After moments of emotional openness in thought, fear or restraint returns. Not always dramatic fear, but subtle resistance, concern about timing, readiness, emotional capacity, or long-term stability. This return to caution creates emotional fatigue. It is not fatigue from interaction, but fatigue from internal contradiction. Wanting and holding back simultaneously creates strain that is invisible to others. From your perspective, this inner conflict may remain completely unseen. What you experience is likely absence, inconsistency, or distance without explanation. But from their side, absence is not emptiness. It is filled with unspoken thought, unresolved emotion, and internal dialogue that never reaches external expression. This is what makes the situation so quietly complex. Two realities exist at the same time, but only one is visible. They may also carry a persistent belief that they need to become better before they can fully engage in connection. Better may mean more emotionally stable, more financially secure, more confident, or simply more internally organized. This belief often delays action indefinitely because the standard of ready keeps shifting. Every time they approach the idea of closeness, they measure themselves against an internal benchmark and often find themselves falling short. As a result, stepping aside becomes a pattern that feels both protective and self-restrictive. They tell themselves that distance is temporary, but the definition of temporary becomes unclear. Days turn into weeks, weeks into longer stretches of silence, while emotional presence remains internally unchanged. Love, in this state, does not disappear. It becomes non-expressive rather than absent. What is important to understand is that emotional restraint is not the same as emotional absence. Someone can care deeply while simultaneously feeling unable to act on that care in a direct way. They may feel that expressing everything would create consequences they are not prepared to handle, so they hold it internally, not because it is insignificant, but because it feels significant enough to require caution. In this way, love becomes something that exists in the background of life, rather than at the center of visible action. It does not always manifest in communication, pursuit, or consistent presence. Instead, it remains in memory, reflection, and private emotional space. It becomes something carried rather than displayed. Even in silence, the emotional connection does not necessarily weaken for them. Time does not automatically erase internal attachment. Instead, it often transforms it into something quieter, more contained, and less outwardly expressive. But containment does not mean disappearance. It means structure without release. You feel the distance more intensely than most people ever could, and there is a real reason for that. It is not something imagined or exaggerated by your mind, and it is not something that exists because you are trying to create meaning where none exists. It is a form of emotional sensitivity that operates beneath conscious thought, a quiet awareness that picks up subtle changes in connection long before they are spoken or explained. This sensitivity is not a flaw in the way people sometimes assume. It is a heightened form of perception. Where others may only register what is directly in front of them, you register what is missing. Where others respond to words, you respond to energy. Where others wait for clarity, you feel uncertainty long before it becomes visible. Your awareness extends into the spaces between actions, into pauses, into silence, into absence itself. You do not only notice when someone is present in your life, you notice when their presence begins to change shape. You feel when communication becomes slightly delayed, when tone shifts subtly, when responses carry less weight than before. These changes are often so small that others would dismiss them completely, but to you they are signals. Not dramatic signals, but quiet ones. Signals that something has shifted, even if nothing has been said out loud. And when silence enters, you do not experience it as emptiness. You experience it as presence in reverse. It still feels like something is there, but something that has withdrawn. It is not neutral. It has texture. It has emotional weight. It occupies space in your awareness the same way sound or conversation would, except it carries uncertainty instead of clarity. This is why distance affects you differently. It does not simply register as lack of contact. It becomes an experience that your mind continuously interprets. You feel it in your body as much as in your thoughts, a subtle tension that rises without warning, a sense of unfinished emotional motion that does not resolve itself easily. Your mind keeps returning to the same person, not because you are forcing it to, but because something within you is still tracking the connection, still trying to understand its current state. You may find that even when you are engaged in other parts of your life, a portion of your awareness remains quietly attached to that connection, not in a disruptive way all the time, but in background processing, a kind of emotional monitoring that continues without permission. A memory surfaces, a feeling returns, a moment replays without being summoned. This is what it means to feel absence deeply. It is not just the lack of someone, but the continuous awareness that they were once there in a more active way, and now something has changed in that pattern. You also feel shifts in emotional tone that are not always visible to others, when warmth becomes slightly distant, when familiarity becomes more cautious, when interaction becomes less fluid. You register these changes quickly, not always with certainty, but with a sense of internal recognition that something is no longer exactly what it was. This does not mean your perception is always objectively accurate in every detail. It means your system is highly attuned to relational change. You notice transitions that happen gradually rather than abruptly. You perceive emotional gradients rather than binary states. Connection does not feel to you like on or off. It feels like a spectrum that is constantly adjusting. Because of this, uncertainty becomes emotionally active for you. Not necessarily in a way that demands immediate resolution, but in a way that keeps your attention engaged. The mind returns to unresolved emotional threads the same way it returns to unfinished patterns, not because it wants confusion, but because it is naturally oriented toward completion. And yet, in emotional life, not everything completes quickly. Some connections remain open-ended for long periods of time, not because they are broken, but because they are still in motion internally, even when externally they appear paused. This is where misunderstanding often happens. From the outside, silence can look like absence. Distance can look like ending. Reduced communication can look like disinterest. But emotional reality is not always structured in visible ways. There are experiences that continue internally, even when they are not being expressed externally. Strong connections, in particular, often do not follow simple timelines. They do not always end when communication stops. They do not always dissolve when distance appears. Instead, they can enter a different phase, one that is less visible, less direct, but still emotionally active. In this phase, presence is no longer measured through interaction. It is measured through persistence, in memory, in thought, in emotional response. A person can be physically absent and still psychologically present in a very real sense. Not as imagination alone, but as an internal reference point that the mind continues to return to. Sometimes this return is triggered by the smallest things. A song that carries a familiar emotional tone, a phrase that echoes something once said, a place that resembles a shared moment. Even something as ordinary as a passing thought during a quiet moment can bring the entire emotional pattern back into awareness. When this happens, it can feel as if nothing has fully faded, as if time has paused rather than moved forward. Not because progress is impossible, but because emotional memory does not follow linear time in the same way physical experience does. This is also why certain bonds feel unresolved even without explanation. They do not necessarily feel complete or finished because they were never fully processed into closure. Instead, they remain in a suspended state, not actively evolving, but not entirely gone either. And in that suspension, meaning continues to form quietly. It is important to understand that this kind of emotional experience is not rare in depth, even if it is not commonly expressed. Many people feel more than they show. Many connections are carried internally long after they are externally quiet. But not everyone is equally aware of it, and not everyone experiences it with the same intensity. Your awareness makes it more visible to you than it might be to others. You do not only feel emotions when they are strong and obvious, you also feel their absence, their fading, their transformation. You feel emotional transitions in real time, even when nothing is being said about them. This can create a unique internal experience, a constant awareness of relational movement, even when the external situation appears still. But stillness is not the same as ending. Stillness can be a phase where something is reorganizing itself without expression. A pause in communication does not always mean a pause in emotional existence. Sometimes it simply means that what exists cannot currently find a clear way to express itself outwardly.